Okay, so my name is Carrie Carlson, and we are going to go over a presentation today on the Americans with Disability Act, ADA, and voting. And I am an advocate for the Tennessee Disability Coalition. I am a middle-aged white woman with, it appears brown hair in this picture. That's good. I have a blue shirt on, and I am standing in front of a blue background, and there's a white door behind me as well. And on the slide in front of you, we also have, along with the title, the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, and voting. We have the Disability Rights Tennessee logo on the bottom left. We have the Tennessee Disability Coalition in the middle, their logo, and then the Tennessee Department of Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities logo on the bottom right. I'm sorry, you guys, this was not in presenter mode. I'm having some difficulties today with this. I'm so sorry. I don't know. This is Mentimeter is not working with me. Give me 1 second, please. Because I can't share it. Huh. Well, I'm gonna have to close this and reopen it.
The joys of technology.
I know, this is just not working. I don't know why it's not cooperating with me today. Now let's try this again. Okay, can you guys see that now?
Yeah.
Okay, yay, okay. It worked for me. Okay, so on the next slide, I don't know if you all have used Mentimeter before, but if you have not, there is a QR code that you can use your phone to scan it, and this presentation will come up on your phone. The QR code is on the right-hand side of the screen, or you can use the URL, which is www.menti.com. And when that screen comes up, it's going to ask you for the code. And that code is on the screen. It's 5816-6747. And you can, I'm going to give you guys just a second. And did that mess up Andrew's view? No, okay. I had to move the screen so I could see. I see you guys are ready. That's awesome. We are going to go ahead and go to the next screen here. And the agenda today is we're going to go over the ADA, some disability history. What are your voting rights under the ADA? How to register to vote. Look at some resources, and then how we're gonna all through this kind of look at how to make voting more of a fun event. So some of the goals, right? Know reasons why voting and civic participation are important. We're hopefully going to know how to get registered to vote, and know how to find information about voting and civic participation, and kind of go over knowing your rights while voting and knowing how to stay involved after election day. Again, that's kind of something that I'll go through throughout while I'm talking about things. And then knowing how to get other people involved. And this is a disclaimer, right? Donna is on this call today. Thank you for being here. And this came out of her presentation. Donna provided us with an ADA training. And this is a disclaimer about the grant. It is from NIDLR, and the grant number is on here. And I'm not going to read this whole thing to you all. But just remember that anything that I say today is not a direct something that directly came from this grant or NIDLR or ACL or anybody like that. It's just presentation that I have put together on behalf of this. And again, in the bottom left-hand corner of this presentation, there's a little QR code that you can use throughout this to scan if anybody is joining us now to get on the presentation and follow along. But this slide is interactive. So what it says is, what do you hope to get out of today? And if you're on the site on your phone or on your computer, you can enter anything that you want into your phone and it will appear on the screen here. So I'm going to give about, I don't know, 15, there we go, learning how to become a better self-advocate. Yes, give a couple seconds for some of these and then we'll go to the next one. I usually have my phone prepared, but with my technical issues, I didn't. Review the voting and ADA info. Okay. So we'll go to the next slide. See if it's gonna let me. Okay. So on this slide, it is, excuse me, in the top left-hand corner, we have the letters, the logo, sorry, for the ADA National Network. And in black boxes, we have the letters ADA. I'm so sorry. And National Network is spelled out. And then in the bottom right, there is a big colorful picture of the US. And on that picture, there are the 10 regions that the ADA network covers. And I'm going to go over that a little bit more on the next slide. But this slide says ADA National Network of 10 regional ADA centers across the US, right? With over 2,200 affiliates. And that is local, state, and regional levels. Funded by the National Institute on Disability, Independent Living, and Rehabilitation Research. That is NIDLR. The 1-800 number is on there. It's 1-800-949-4232. And then the website, https://adata.org. So those are numbers and resources that you can utilize. Okay, so Southeast ADA. In the upper left-hand corner, it says Southeast, and then in orange, blue, and green, they're kind of like little boxes. The words ADA is in there, and then center is on the right. And then we have on the right-hand side, a picture of the regions, the 8 states, I'm sorry, that the region that is number 4 covers, right? So those states are Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. This is a project of the Burton Black Institute at Syracuse University. And for the Southeast ADA Center, there is a partner organization for each state, right? And the Tennessee Disability Coalition is the network contact for the Southeast, and Donna is that contact. So her email address is on here. It's Donna, DONNA _D @tndisability.org. You can get all of our contact information on the website also. So you can go there and get any information. I'll share that later. So this is another interactive piece. What is the Americans with Disabilities Act? Give just a couple seconds to answer this. And you can type anything into your phone or your computer, whatever you're using, and or unmute, and it'll come up on here. Ooh, the Americans with Disabilities Act is a help people with a disability. Yes, absolutely. Anyone else? Because I'm going to give you the answer. No? Okay, well, let's go to the next slide. Oh, it is a federal act. Yes, absolutely. That's a good one. Good to know. Okay, so the Americans with Disability Act of 1990, right? It is a civil rights law of 1964 and the disability rights movement. We're going to talk about this more, but I wanted the website to be there. You can find more at the ADA. Again, the website is there, https://www.ada.gov. And all these links are going to be in a resource for you all at the end of this, so you don't have to write anything down. How does the ADA define a person with a disability? Again, this is interactive, right? So you can choose a physical or mental impairment that limits one or more major life activity, a person with a record of a disability, a person who regards as having a disability, or all of the above. What do you guys think? Okay, no answer so far. But I am going to go ahead and give it to you. Oh, here we go. All right, so a person with a record of a disability and all the above. Yes, so yes, all the above. So the ADA, okay, we have more answers, yay. So all the above is right. That is the ADA defines all of the above as a person with a disability. Okay, so we're going to go over some titles of the ADA really quickly. But on this slide, on the right-hand side are two different pictures, both of which are the universal restroom signs for male, female, and person with a disability. So there is a black box with a outline of a woman, what appears to be a woman, an outline of what appears to be a man, and then a person who is using a wheelchair with the word restroom below it. The other image is the same, only it's a triangle, not a square. So the titles of the ADA, right? Title I is employment. Title II is public service, state and local governments. And that is bolded because that is where we're going to stay today. Title III is public accommodations, private businesses. Title IV is telecommunications. And then Title V is miscellaneous. Sorry, excuse me. And then the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, the general requirements, right? So that requires that people have physical access, effective communication, and reasonable modifications of policies, practices, and procedures, right? So just so that people can equally participate, right? And the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. And on this slide, on the right-hand side, there's a blue box and it has accessible routes, I'm sorry, building entrances, lifts and elevators, protruding objects, parking, ramps, voting areas, right? So these are requirements of public entities to ensure that people with disabilities have full and equal opportunities to vote, right? And this applies to all aspects of voting, including voter registration, site elections, and casting your ballot on election day or early voting or any of those voting opportunities. And these are the requirements under the ADA. So we're going to go on to the next one. It's know your rights, right? So your rights for voting are that you may vote, even if you have a conservator, right? I've heard that question a lot. People say that they couldn't because they had a conservator, and that's not true unless the court explicitly says that you can't vote, right? If you need help to vote, you do not have to explain to anybody why. And you can have somebody help you vote. You can ask a poll worker to help you vote. The only people that cannot help you vote, right, is your employer or somebody who's on the ballot, right? So those are the only two things. You can ask a friend, you can ask family, you can have anybody come with you and help you vote, or you can ask somebody there. You may ask for an accessible voting machine. And as this says, this only requires for every polling place to have one accessible polling machine. So, but they do have to have one, so you can always ask for one. And so the Tennessee Bill of Voting Rights, right? And in this picture on the left-hand side, there's a bunch of people that are peacefully protesting. There in the front, there are three people that one man is on the left-hand side. He has a black sweatshirt on and he says, "Let vote." And there's a symbol in the middle. Couldn't really tell what that is, but it's a cultural symbol of some kind. In the middle, there's a really cute little young girl who says, it says people power. And in the middle, it says, "Let my people vote," right? And then on the right-hand side, there's a lady walking. She's got sunglasses on, and that says, "Let my people vote" also. So they're peacefully protesting about having their rights to vote. And the Tennessee Bill of Voting Rights, it is the Constitution of the United States that I have a right to take part in civic life, right? So that's voting. If you're registered to vote in Tennessee, I have the right to vote in this election and in any election, right? I have the right to vote by myself or with help. And I can select who I want to assist me, except for, as I mentioned before, you can't have your boss come with you to help you vote. And even if you have a conservator, you can vote unless the court has said you cannot. And if you're prevented from voting, stay at the polling site and call for help, right? I have the Tennessee Disability Coalition. I have the Disability Rights Tennessee Voting Assistance Hotline number on here with the email address. And then we have the Tennessee State Coordinators of Elections with their 800 number on here. Again, you'll have access to these afterwards. And then we also have this came from the Tennessee Disability Coalition, right? This is one of our cards that shows the voting rights, saying the things that I just went over, right? But also added to this is that you don't have to prove your IQ to vote. Again, you may vote with, even if you have a conservator, you don't have to explain why. And you can have someone help you, again, except for your boss. And you can ask for that accessible voting machine. But this is another thing that's in the resources as well. Does anybody have any questions so far? And in this picture on the right hand side, it's a really cute little doggy. He's shaking his head from side to side with a blue background. It's a brown dog. I don't know what kind of dog it is. And there's some question marks above him. And there is one answer here. Let's see. Oh, I went the wrong way. Let me see. There we go. Nope, cute picture. Yep, he is a cute doggy. Any questions? No? Okay, we can go ahead then. And then, so there is something called the voting gap, right? Now I'm going to go into this a little bit more. But in 2020, the voting gap was that Tennesseans with disabilities voted 53.9%, right? Those were the votes that were casted. And Tennesseans without disabilities voted at 68.5%. So that voting gap is between people with disabilities who voted and people without disabilities who voted. And this voting gap is 14.6%. That's a major gap, right? And we should vote, because if people with disabilities had voted just that number alone, right, we could maybe change the results of an election. Everybody'd have to vote the same way, right? But that voting gap is really big. I know it's on one of these slides, but we're second in the nation for that voting gap. So that's pretty, we need to vote. I don't even have words for it, right? We all need to get out and vote if we can. But does anybody know why that voting gap turnout is so big? Huh, I went too far. Anybody have any thoughts for that? Again, this is another one of those where you can put your answer in there if you'd like. Okay. For time, I'm going to keep going, okay? And barriers to voting is one of the reasons that gap is so big, right? We have barriers to everything, but barriers to voting and going to an accessible voting place, whether that is for physical access, right? Lack of accessible voting machines. Like I said, there's only one, right? So if you've got 10 people who need an accessible voting machine right then, that could make those lines get pretty long, right? Physical access. I know that a lot of our voting locations are maybe in schools or churches, and those places have accessible parking and accessible entrances most of the time. But that doesn't mean that the voting location is anywhere near where those accessible parking spots are or where that accessible entrance is. So sometimes that's a real barrier for people. Poll worker shortage, right? That's becoming even more so as the years go by and things change. Barriers to voting, right? Systemic barriers. We do have strict photo ID laws. Voter registration purging, right? They can take your voter registration out of there for a list of different reasons. But that can happen. Transportation. I know I live in rural Tennessee, and it takes a long time sometimes to get to the voting location. I know for early voting, it's at least 15 minutes for me to get there. And the guardianship laws, right? That can be a real barrier for people. So who are voters with disabilities in the state of Tennessee, right? We're going to go over just a little bit of this, but there's a lot of research out there on this. So for the state elections and civic engagement for Tennessee, right? We're 48th for seniors, that's people 65 and older. Voter turnout and registration for the midterm elections. We are 46th for voter turnout for presidential elections and 44th for voter turnout in the midterms and 41st in registration for presidential elections, right? So we're not doing great in the turning out for elections for the state of Tennessee. And why should you care about voting, right? This is a big one. There are so many different things that we could say here, but the voting gap, right? We need to close that voting gap. Like I said, if people with disabilities voted in higher numbers, right? We could change some elections possibly. It makes voting easier for everybody. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later on, but it's your right. And if you don't use it, you could lose it, right? Especially for people with disabilities. We've worked too hard to get where we're at. And if we don't use those rights, we may lose them. And again, why should you care about voting? Inclusion, right? We change people's minds when we show up and we cast our ballot and we make those decisions. It's your civic duty, right? And it shapes our world, right? When people with disabilities have that chance to vote and they cast that ballot, you are changing the outcome of what you want to happen in your state or in your town. And again, why vote? Making voter easier for everybody, right? Universal design. And if universal design is basically that when we make things accessible for people with disabilities, then we make it accessible for everyone, right? It makes things to where everybody can use them to the fullest extent possible, right? The easy ballot, this is something I appreciate, right? It's making it standard so that it's easier for people to see, right? Or know where things might be. And then vote by mail. And that is something that we saw increase the number of people who voted during the COVID time, where other states were allowing people to vote by mail easier because of the threat from COVID-19. But so why votes? Using your rights, right? The only way to show we care about our rights is to use them. And that's for anything, anyone, any population, right? We got to show by using our rights. When people stop using their rights, they start to fade. I went over that a little bit. And this is especially true for the disability community. And our legislators know when we vote and if we vote, right? I have had a legislator call me out on the fact that I didn't vote for him, right? He asked me if I helped him, if I'd vote for him. which, you know, they look, and they know sometimes, right? Especially if you're asking for a meeting for them, they know if people are voting. And it's more important to them that people vote. You know, they want people to vote for them, but you know, they pay attention to who's voting and who's not. And so this is the question for you all. Has anybody ever told you that you cannot do something because of your disability? And the answers are yes, no, or I don't know. I know, let me go forward here. Let's see, there we go. I know that, like I said, I usually have my phone here. I would have to say yes to this, right? So I would be a yes. But we have a no, and that's awesome. And I'm gonna just go forward here. I know we're a little, oh, we have a yes, oh no. That's not cool. Yeah, I'm a yes too. So any yeses, you have to change their mind, right? And you can do that by voting. Voting changes minds. And again, why vote? It's your civic duty. As I said, I go over this a little bit more. Our communities do better when we're included, right? And whenever universal design. How many people, and you don't have to answer this, but how many people have ever been so thankful that that door opens when they hit the button on the side, right? I know I have, right? I've got my hands full, touch the button and the door opens, right? That is a look at universal design, and that is a door that helps people with disabilities who may use a chair, who may have some kind of mobility difficulty, or you know, visual I can't find my words today. Somebody who might have a visual disability, but that helps you, everybody, right? It's not just helping people with disabilities. Being engaged in your community, make sure that our voices are heard. I can't tell you how many times it's been so important that somebody from the disability community is at one of those meetings where they're talking about the time or the location of an event, or you know, we have ASL and captioning here today, right? That is to make sure that everybody can be included. And saying that in a meeting can make such a difference for somebody who's not there at the time. And then voting is a great way to make your voice heard, like we've already said. And elections matter, right? And what do you think is the best reason to vote? Again, this is another one of those answers. If you guys want to put your answers in there, what do you think is the best reason to vote? And you can choose something I've already said, that's okay. Ooh, to make your choice known, that is absolutely 100%. Right, to change things, to make your community what you need it to be. Voting matters, and I usually get help voting with my dad's help. With my dad helps me. Sorry, I can't find my words. That's awesome, especially that your parent helps you, right? I know I've been voting since was little tiny person with my dad. And now my daughter, she has to come with me on voting day. So that's cute. Okay, we're gonna go to the next one. And things to do before you want to vote, right? You've got to make sure that you're eligible to vote in Tennessee. you have to register to vote 30 days before the election that you want to vote in. And you have to make sure you have an ID. And you have to make a plan, right? We're going to go over these. So, are you eligible to vote, right? Are you 18? Are you a US citizen? Do you live in Tennessee? And are you not a felon, right? And even if somebody has a felony, there are ways that they can get their voting rights restored, right? Or if you are in college and you're out of state, right? That's too much to go into today, but there are ways that you can still cast your vote for your town, for your state. And have you registered to vote before? I would be a yes for the, okay. So everybody, yes. Yes. Okay, so yes, everybody is registered to vote. That's awesome. If not, oh, this one's in here twice. I'm sorry. Or I went the wrong way. So since we all know how to register to vote, I'm going to go through this very quickly. There are lots of ways you can register, but one way is you can use the Tennessee Secretary of State's website, right? I put it on here. We also have different partners around the state of Tennessee. Again, those resources are going to be available to you. And you can go through their website to register to vote as well. And have you ever voted before? Again, this is another option, yes, no, or I don't know. Ooh, we have 2 yeses already, yay, okay, and I voted too, right? And again, to vote, you must have a state ID, right? So you can have a driver's license, you can use a passport, or you can get a free ID card at the DMV also. So those are some options. You must have your ID. And things to know about voting. There's often more than one opportunity to vote, right? There's more than one way you can vote. And you can have, you do have to do a little bit of preparation. Well, you should, right? And I'm going to go over some ways that you can do that here in a second. There are different types of elections, right? General elections, midterms, and presidentials, and then the primaries and the local elections. I know that's a lot, but there will be some information about that in the resources for people to look at. And there are different ways you can vote, right? You can go in person the day of election. You can go in person during early voting. Now, sometimes, as I said, about the 15 minutes for me to vote, that is my early voting election commission office. So it's a little further out. So sometimes early voting, you do have to drive a little more because there's not as many locations open. And using absentee ballot, right? So this is a fun slide with a black background, and it's got different colored confetti flying everywhere. And it says to make a plan, because I think this is could be one of the funnest parts of voting, right? Making a plan, right? Things that you have to think about, right? When do you want to vote? I just gave all those options, right? So if you're voting early, but it's a further location, you might have to put a little bit more planning into that. Do you have everything you need to vote? Now, I have some objects here that I have right in front of me as an example, right? So I always have my iPods with me so that I can listen to something because I know I'm going to wait in line. I have my chapstick because I can't live without it. I have my running light. I use these in the morning. But because of my vision, I have needed this. I've actually had to use this because the voting location, it was dark in there. So I used this, or I had my phone also. And then I'm not going to show you guys these, obviously, because my information is on there. But I had my voter registration card and my ID, my driver's license is on the back of this. You don't have to have your voter ID card, right? But like I told you guys before about, having to have identification, sometimes that might come in handy. It came in handy for me when I moved to a new location, right? They didn't have me registered. Well, I had my card, so they had to let me vote, right? You have to know, people with diabetes, right? You might need a snack. I don't have my water. I always have my water with me too, right? So make sure you have those things with you. How are you going to get to that polling location? And how do you know who you want to vote for? Right, Secretary of State's website has all that information. There's an app, it's Go Vote TN. Again, that'll be in the resources. And then one of my favorites is the Brink voting app. And I really love it because you can use this app to make your selections. And then the app works without using your internet or your phone data. So you can keep that up there and you can use it when you get to the election site, right? Because there can sometimes be a lot of different people on those ballots, right? And then knowing your rights, right? If anybody wants any of those little know your rights cards, we have them in pocket size. I should have had one here, but it is a little bit bigger than a I don't know, and then a sticky note or something. But you can have that with you, right? And what things do you think you need to take to vote? This is something that you have to vote. I can think of one, my ID, right? I need my ID. Yep, ID. And right, if you need somebody to help you, right, you might want to take them with you. Any resources you need, your glasses. I know I need my glasses. Yes, photo ID with registration or voter registration. Yeah. So anything that you're gonna need to cast that ballot. And how can you learn more about who you want to vote for? Right, I just went over this, but think of other ways, right? I know that living in rural Tennessee, I go to the state of Tennessee website and I don't, I find out who the candidates are and I will look and see what they voted for, what committees they sit on. I look at Twitter and Facebook to see what they're saying. But I really make sure, talk with friends. Yes, I love that one. And sometimes there's town halls that you can go to. We don't get that out in rural Tennessee very often, but that is sometimes an option, right? But I always make sure that I do my homework because I know that sometimes candidates can say, hey, yes, I'm for that. But then when I look at what they voted for, sometimes they haven't voted for what they say they will. So it's really important to do your homework and make sure that's really who you want making decisions on your behalf. And then this is know your rights again, right? I'm not going to go over this, but it's so important to know your rights, right? If you're registered to vote, you can select who you want to assist you, except for your boss. You have the right to vote in the way that you want to. you can ask for assistance or have somebody help you. And does anybody have any questions? Just have a couple more slides. Nope, don't have any. And I'm so sorry, I forgot to go over it. On this slide, there is a really cute emoji with a yellow smiley face, though they're not smiling very much, with a red hand pointing to their mouth, kind of questioning, for, do you have any questions? And this emoji has a red bow, and there is a flashing blue and pink background behind it. Kind of fun. Okay, no questions. Okay, for help or to get involved, right? My email address is on here. It's Carrie, CARRIE_C at tndisability.org. Or you can go to our website, https://www.tndisability.org. Sorry, I'm losing my voice, I think, /disability. And you can also go to the Proud, but I missed some of that. I'm sorry, you guys, but you'll have this as a resource, right? You can go to the sos.tn.gov/elections and the proudvoter.org page. And there is the Tennessee Disability Coalition. We have a partner page on there. So that is the link for that. And you can always go to, we have Disability Day on the Hill every year, right? Where you can actually have a chance to meet with your legislators. And this past year, it was back in person. It was amazing. But you can really sit down and talk to your legislators in Nashville at Cordell Hall and really talk to them about your concerns, right? And we'll be posting information about that when it comes around. It's always after the first of the year, so we've got a while. But that's a good chance for people to voice their opinion. And we have a Facebook page. This is so fun. So Tennessee Disability Advocates Group. On the top of this slide, it is the Tennessee state flag, which appears to be on a brick background. And it's I know sometimes you see the flag in different colors. It's red. And it does have the 3 Tennessee stars in the middle of it on the blue circle, and the stars are white. But you can always go to this Facebook page. You can join, and we post really good stuff, but also advocates across the state do as well. And you can text the word teamwork to 72690. That is our direct text messaging code. And if you do that, we will send you updates, especially during legislative session. And it's not a lot of updates, right? 1 to 3 at the most a week. And it's just really good information about what's going on in the disability community, about bills, laws, things that we're doing in the community. Highly suggest it, right? I get them because I forget about things, right? I might see it and then I forget, but they're sent through there. And then here is a link to a Google Drive that I'm going to put it in the chat here in a second, but for a folder where all these resources are going to be kept, right? And once this video is on YouTube, I will put the link for the drive on there as well. And thank you. In the middle of this page, it says thank you, and some really, they're red. Well, I don't know. My vision's not very good. So I think they're red and and yellow or orange possibly. My daughter would say they're pink though, probably. And it says thank you, and it's getting really big and small. And if you guys, that's the end of the presentation. I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. And I am going to get that that link, and I'm going to put it in the chat for you, right? So that you can access that. If I can, you can access those resources. It's coming right now. Oh, I thought that it was. Technology is not my friend today. That's okay. I have an emoji box in front of my stuff and I can't see it. Well, let me get the chat from anywhere else. Does anybody have it? Do you guys have any questions for me? You can come off mute.
I don't, Carrie. Thank you. That was a great presentation.
Well, thank you, Donna.
I have to jump off and get on another one.
All right, well, thank you for coming, and I will I'll get you the link for the Google Doc.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
I really enjoyed it.
Good, Katie. Thank you for coming.
I got the link like
Oh,
from
you
you.
did?
I got the Zoom link. No, I got the Zoom link on from you, and then I got it from Catherine because I graduated from the partners policy making.
Yes, that is right. I knew that. Yes, I did know that. So I'm going to put this in I've got the link right here. I'm gonna put it in the chat for you right now. And do you want me to email it to you too, Katie?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so I'm copying it and putting it in the chat. Okay. There you go. That should work. And I'll go ahead and email it to you too. And I'll put it on the, when I put the video out, I'll send it to you and it will be in there as well. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.